Hi, this is Jeremy Brown with MoveEd, and today we are going to be working on some tools and tips to help connect back to your core after issues with rectus diastasis, which is a separation of your central line of your abdominals all the way from the top to the bottom. We have a lot of abdominals on one side and a lot of abdominals on the other side, layers of abdominals, and they all connect to center through a central tendon that runs all the way down, again, from the breastbone all the way down through the navel and through the pubic bone. Often during pregnancy, we can, because of the stretching of all of this tissue, we can get a separation there. Also, this happens very regularly with men later in life, just because, I would assume, because of the shape of our bodies and our posture, it's what happens over time. It is often associated with this sort of beer gut, which actually is not always weight so much as it is sort of pressure and displacement of your organs, basically, and your breath and your abdominal support, so that we start to see things push outward in a way, again, that causes a separation of the central line. For myself, I had 20 years ago a surgery that cut me from breastbone all the way to pubic bone, and then stitching up. So that clearly left me with a need to reconnect to that central line. And these are tools that I used and tools that I have helped others to work with and have been very successful over the years. It's just going to be a way to start to reconnect to that space and then progressively add challenge. Note that this is actually a great way for anyone to reconnect to their core space, to start to feel breath and feel support and start to feel movement in relation to some abdominal support. So for this, we're actually going to start lying down on a mat. I've got a yoga block, which is handy, but also a book would work, or we're just going to use something for a little bit of feedback. We're going to lie down flat on our backs. And from that position, we're going to come into whatever's comfortable, meaning I have my knees bent, but you could also have your legs maybe more straight out with a little pillow behind the knees. You have your legs resting up on like the back of a chair or on the edge of a couch and hang out there, or feet placed against the wall. Any of that's fine. We just want a position where we can be really comfortable through the spine. Now, the first thing I'd say about issues with this is, of course, our ribs. If you think about the base of the breastbone, where this starts, that's pretty high up in relation to the bottom of our ribs, right? We've got this V angle of the ribs coming in, and so our abdominals connect from even the underside of our ribs and come into the middle of this V space. And this especially relates to rectus diastasis. There's a tendency toward the ribs being out of alignment and not having a good central support for themselves, us not having a good central support to the breastbone, and that can lend itself to a pulling apart of the ribs and a pulling apart of the abdominal space. So my first recommendation is that you start working with my breathing exercise, where you lie face down on the ground with a ball or a rolled towel under your chest, or you lean against the wall with a ball or a towel under your chest, and you begin there and you start to mobilize your ribs. That would actually be step one, is I want my ribs to be more mobile, so that if I come to lying down here and I take the yoga block or book and just let it sit in the center of my chest, and I let my fingertips sit on that yoga block so that I have a little weight there, it should feel as though when I breathe in, I can connect into my breastbone and let my breastbone sink back into my heart and sink back into my body. And then as I exhale, I can let that sink back into my body. And so we're trying to get it so that as I breathe in, my chest doesn't push out. I don't push the yoga block out, I don't push my ribs out, which pulls me away from my midline in the front of my body. So I'm just learning how the breath at the top through my ribs relates to having a better central midline. That's our goal, having the reconnection to this central midline. And if this doesn't all make sense, again, it's best to refer back to our breathing exercise number 3 on thoracic, mobilizing thoracic breath. So that being done, if that all comes together after we work on that a little, then we're going to come down into the abdominal space. And I'm going to give you a couple of options for how to get feedback here, because we do want some feedback. You can use your fingertips, and if you have a diastasis, you are going to know where it happens. Typically they happen somewhere around the navel. It's going to be that place where your fingers kind of sink in. If you lift your head up, you'll feel a little bit of a gapping there. And so we're just looking for that space, and I'm going to find that gap, and I'm going to move my fingertips just to either side of it, catch some skin. It's the middle of winter here, so there's more skin to catch than there is in the middle of summer. And I'm just going to kind of catch some skin and flesh there, and I'm going to gently push it toward the middle. Right? So I'm trying to help the muscles on either side. I'm just barely like an inch away from center on either side, and I'm trying to help the muscles in the tissue feel a little bit more connected to center. And then as far as what we want out of our breath, because we are really the main job of my abdominals, they have 2 things. They help 3 things, we'll give them. They help to support my spine, they help to hold my organs in, and they are part of the action of breathing. So we're going to use that action of breathing to help restore the other 2 roles of the abdominals, supporting my organs and supporting my spine, right? So pushing together with my fingertips. Again, we've noted that there is a loss of connection at the abdominal midline. I'm going to give that a little bit of pressure. And I'm going to allow my belly to expand a little as I breathe in. I want to feel that I just let the belly, as I breathe in, rise up into my fingertips a little bit, like I can feel that. And then what you'll probably notice is if you let a normal exhale happen, one of 2 things will happen. You're either going to almost completely deflate the abs, and you'll feel how that hollowness sinks into the belly and gaps. Or you might feel that as you exhale, you actually push down and out on your belly, and you push, and that hollowness flares forward and splits open. So we're just going to see how the tendency for the abdominals to overpressurize and barrel out causes a splitting of the midline, or the tendency for the abdominals to sink in and collapse also causes a gapping at the midline. And so we're looking for this sweet spot, right? So again, if I've got this little pressure of my fingertips pushing toward the midline, I take a breath in, I feel how my breath in and my abdominals rise into my fingertips just a little, and I'm giving a little pressure toward the midline so that as I breathe out, I'm going to slowly let breath out, but feel like my breath out does 2 things. It helps my fingertips pull together, like I'm sealing up a Ziploc bag, and it helps me to sink in without pulling away. So I have this sweet spot of I let my abs contract and connect, but I don't let them sink and hollow. I do not pull my belly button toward my spine, but I also don't exhale and bear down and push out, causing a barreling of the belly. So I breathe in, breath connects under the fingertips. I breathe out, breath stays connected under the fingertips. So another way, and again, we'll just go through that a couple more times. Breathe in. I can feel my breath in kind of firm up and connect under my fingertips. And then I'm trying to figure out how to let out air without losing that firmness and midline connection as I breathe out. As a core specialist, right? Like, this is my deal. It has been my deal for nearly 2 decades. There is nothing that makes my skin crawl more than the words, squeeze your abs or pull your belly button in. Pull your belly button in particularly just makes me absolutely go nuts. It is so dysfunctional. So what we're learning is, how do I connect to my core? How does my breath out help me stay connected to my core without defaulting to pulling the belly button in, which again can lead to a deeper dysfunction of the abs instead of a better function of the abs. So another way to get feedback here is, again, a yoga block or a book, and you just let that rest on your belly and let your fingertips rest on that so it has a little bit of pressure. And as I breathe in, I want to feel that my belly gently connects into the yoga block. I'm allowing it. I'm not pushing it way up toward the ceiling, but I can feel my breath gently connecting to that yoga block. And as I exhale, it should feel like the two sides of my abs come together and support against the yoga block. As I breathe out, my abs don't hollow and sink away from the yoga block, at which point I feel my ribs and my hips, but I don't feel the connection to my core. And also as I breathe out, I don't push my belly forward and into the yoga block. So again, breathing in, just feeling as you breathe in that the belly gives support right against the yoga block. And as you exhale, the abdominals, like a Ziploc baggie, seal up on the middle and support against the yoga block. So it feels to me like the whole time as I breathe in and breathe out, my core in general, and especially that connection in the midline, is like a little trampoline that the yoga block is sitting on. Now, we are lying on a mat, and we're just working on breathing, we're just working on connecting. Your abs barely need to do anything. We're just establishing a baseline to help with good support and posture. We're going to be adding on challenge from here, but for this, we are just looking for connection. So is it subtle? Yes. But we also don't need to train a squeezing or bracing pattern to use in life. All we're doing is retraining a connection pattern that we have lost. So this is not going to feel like strong abdominal work. We're just bringing awareness to a connection that was lost and reestablishing that midline connection. So that's it for our first video. In our next video, we're going to look at the next two things that I start to add to load challenge onto this connection. So thanks a lot. I will see you again soon for the next video. Thanks a lot.